Reportedly, a Russian missile landed on the territory of Poland, and if this attack is confirmed as intentional, NATO will be militarily involved against Russia. At the same time, Russia launched approximately 100 missiles and drones against Ukraine's energy infrastructure on its entire territory. And finally, Russia is subconsciously ready to give up the rest of Kherson and Mykolaiv region as they retreat as far as to Crimea and Melitopol. But more about all of this in just a couple of minutes. What's up, investors? It's the Russian dude. And let's go straight to the point and talk about this reportedly Russian attack against the territory of Poland. Earlier today, a missile struck Svatove, taking away the lives of 2 Polish citizens. And right here, you can see one of the fragments of this missile. Soon after the attack, the Polish Air Forces launched some of its jets to secure the area. And the army of Poland is on increased combat readiness. According to the US Defense Intelligence, these were Russian missiles, but they will do everything possible to establish whether this was an intentional attack, because the US is not looking to escalate the situation. And at the same time, the highest government officials of Poland had an urgent meeting to decide the future course of action. And one of the results of this meeting is that in case this attack is proven to be intentional, there will be a military response from NATO against Russia. And just right now I received the official confirmation that this was a Russian missile. And so the representative of Russia in Poland has been summoned for questioning. And what is the response of Russia? Well, as always, it is ridiculous. The official position of the Russian government is that it was not them who did this attack. It was Ukrainians. But at the same time, Russian propagandists such as Margarita Simonyan, they started mocking Poland. One of the first things she said is that, "What's up, Poland? How does it feel to be attacked even though you are not directly involved in the war?" And then she added that Russian missiles are extremely precise, that is why it is completely impossible for them to be set off course. And that is why she concluded this attack is either Ukrainian, Polish, or British. I will obviously not elaborate on her selection of these countries, because this is simply ridiculous. Another Russian propagandist claimed that the reason for this explosion was the ignition of a grain dust. And I know I'm not a physicist or a chemist, so I have no idea how this can catch on fire and how the fragments of missile can mysteriously appear. But anyways, regular Russian people are also shocked by this attack. Pretty much the only ones who support this and try to justify it are the representatives of the Russian government and propagandists. So the separation between regular Russians and their leaders is now even further. I will be closely following this situation and reporting on it in my future videos, and if you don't want to miss these critical updates, please consider liking this video and subscribing to my channel. You can also follow me on Instagram and ask me some questions, and I will reply to you. Alright, and now let's talk about Russians launching approximately 100 missiles and drones against Ukrainian infrastructure, basically across its entire country. And our first video comes to us from Lviv, which is located close to the border with Poland, where we can see the consequences of this attack. Next we go to Zhytomyr, where we can see the results of Russian shelling as well. Our next stop brings us to the capital of Ukraine, Kiev, which has been under one of the most severe attacks today. And even though Russians claim that they were only targeting energy infrastructure, as you can see from this video, they also destroyed residential buildings. Because of this, the capital suffered severe power outages this night. And then right here we have a video from the inside of one of the apartments. And eventually, as you can see right here, many residents of Kiev decided to leave the city, which created massive traffic jams. Alright, and now let's go to Sumy, where we can see that one of Russian missiles was intercepted by Ukrainians. And to be honest, Ukraine's air defense improved significantly. And very soon I will give you the statistics, how many of these missiles and drones were intercepted, and the number is pretty good. But for now, let's go to Kharkiv, where we can see that this city has been under attack as well. Reportedly, the city also lost its power and many of its residents tried to evacuate to a much safer regions. And now let's go all the way across the country to Odessa. And as you can see from this picture, Russians also attacked this city. And finally, here is a picture of a critical energy infrastructure from Kherson region. According to the head of Ukrenergo, Vladimir Kudrytsky, this specific electric station has been supplying the power to the entire right side of Kherson region. And as for now, unfortunately, it is completely destroyed. Today Russia performed severe attacks against Ukraine, and many of the footage that I have will be simply not allowed by YouTube. And if you want to see these unacceptable and unblurred photos and videos, I will upload some of them to my Discord, and the rest will be available on my Patreon. And you can find all these links down below. Right, so according to the Ukrainian Air Forces, Russia used approximately 100 missiles and drones. Russia was mainly launching them from the Black Sea, Caspian Sea and Rostov region. And Ukraine was able to intercept 73 of these missiles and 10 drones. And at least 15 major energy infrastructures of Ukraine were either critically or completely destroyed. And then on this map, you can see the locations of these attacks. And as a result, around 10 million Ukrainians, or approximately 25% of the entire country population, was experiencing power outages. But you know what? In some way, it does feel like that Putin is trying to inflict maximum damage before all of this is over. If you remember from my previous episodes, Russia was critically low on its missile supplies. And after today's shellings, hopefully there will be no more such massive attacks by Russians. Alright, and now let me give you a brief but very important update from the south. First of all, as you can see from this video from Kherson, Ukrainians installed this massive Ukrainian flag, which is pretty much the symbol of the total liberation of Kherson city. But as you can see right here, Ukrainians are not in a rush to cross the river, because at this very moment they're performing so-called stabilization activities on the right side of Dnipro river. And such activities include demining the territories, restoring the basic infrastructure and assembling forces for next attacks. It has also been stated by the armed forces of Ukraine that the city of Oleshki and Kinburn-Spit are not fully liberated just yet. But there were war combat activities in these regions yesterday, and these were many Ukrainian partisans who are testing the defenses of Russians and collecting the intelligence data. And I mean, it would be incredible if Ukraine had just already crossed the river and started liberating the settlements. But at the same time, you cannot just blindly attack, especially if it involves crossing the river. But nevertheless, according to Natalia Gumenyuk, those Russians located right on the left side of Dnipro river, they are retreating 15 to 20 kilometers deeper into Kherson region. And the reason they do it is to protect themselves from possible artillery attacks of Ukrainians. But I mean, it's not gonna help them much, because if you remember yesterday, I was sharing this map which was showing the range of HIMARS that Ukraine has right now. And in case all of this is truly happening, the left bank of Dnipro river is now almost completely defenseless, which I mean obviously will help Ukrainians in their further counteroffensive. And then we have another report by the General Staff of Ukraine which says that important people of Russia, they evacuate from Khinnichensk and Skadovsk all the way to Crimea. Because if you remember, just a couple of days ago they were withdrawing to these cities, and now they retreat even further. Which once again potentially means that Russians are subconsciously ready to give up the rest of Kherson region. Alright, and before we talk about the first results of the G20 summit and the new peace conditions by President President Zelensky, allow me to quickly update you on the situation in the east. And hopefully I can do it in less than 1 minute. Alright, so first of all, according to the report by the Institute for the Study of War, Ukrainians continue their counteroffensive next to Svatove, Crimea, and they also started advancing next to Bilohirivka. At the same time, Russians failed to capture territories in the northeast of Kharkov region, and they intensify their attacks in Donetsk region and next to Bakhmut. On this map, we can see that Russians were able to fully contest Pavlivka and take a little bit more land next to Vladimirka. And at the same time, Russians advanced a little bit further to the south of Nivelske. Alright, and now as promised, let's also very briefly talk about the G20 summit, the new peace conditions by Zelensky, and the response of Russians. After his online speech, President Zelensky presented 10 new conditions for the peace talks with Russia, which you can see on your screen. And they include radiation, food and energy security, release of prisoners and deported persons, restoration of Ukraine's territorial integrity, withdrawal of Russian forces, preventing escalation, and the confirmation of the end of war. Russia obviously did not accept these conditions, and then they claimed that Ukraine does not want to talk with them. And specifically, the president of Chechnya, Ramzan Kadyrov, called these conditions funny. He said that if President Zelensky truly cared about his people, he was supposed to be standing on his knees and begging for these peace talks. Then he also added that Ukraine must recognize Luhansk, Donetsk, Zaporozhye, Kherson and Crimea as a part of Russia. And ultimately, all the Ukrainian Nazis, fascists, Satanists and drug addicts must be prosecuted. But then we have another response by Dmitry Medvedev, who was talking about these reparations to Ukraine. He said that if Russia will have to pay these reparations and if money will be forcefully taken from them, Russia will have no other choice. This is basically him once again threatening the world with the nuclear attack. And I mean, at this point, all the nuclear threats coming from Russia, especially from Dmitry Medvedev, can be completely ignored. But the question is, what's coming next? What if one day he will not be satisfied with the way his steak was prepared? Will he also threaten to nuke the restaurant? Right now it might sound ridiculous, but so does the logic of some of Russian authorities. If you want to support my work, please consider becoming my channel member, use a PayPal link or become my Patreon, where you'll receive additional content. All the other useful links can be found to the right and down below. Thank you so much for your attention, товарищи, and see you tomorrow.